It's your
going
host,
on?
J. Matt McCarthy. I'm here with my boy, Kai Flair.
Y'all know the deal. What's going on, man?
And we got a special guest in the house, one of my favorite
Absolutely.
personalities. Whenever I first heard of him, it was on the Breakfast Club. And the young brother was just so intelligent, well-spoken, and captivating in every word that he spoke. He made me rethink certain things and wonder and question why certain things are the certain ways. He's a doctor. He has a school in progress. He's done trips, speeches. He's an activist. He's gone to Africa. I present to y'all no other than Dr. Umar. Dr. Umar, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it, man.
Peace and Pan-Africanism. Glad to be here with you, brothers.
Your week
Welcome.
been?
Pretty good. I can't complain. All is well. Still working on the school down in Delaware.
Yeah.
So we pushing, God willing, next year sometime we should be opening up America's first truly independent school for black boys based on the principles of revolutionary Pan-Africanism and global economics. First school also in America's history to be purchased, renovated, and operated with donations from Africans from all over the world.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Man, so how you been living? What's new with you? What you got going on? I know you be traveling, like you said. Where you been at, man?
Well, for me, where did I just come back from? London, England.
London.
I was in London. I did a lecture there. I get a lot of love there. London is probably my number one support city in Europe. Jamaica is my number one support island in the Caribbean. I would say that in Africa, it's tough because I get a lot of love all over Africa, but I would probably have to go with South Africa maybe, but arguably Ghana. Nigeria is there, so I get love all over. I'm just thankful for God put me in a position that I'm in to raise consciousness, to help our children, being a school psychologist, to help our parents, and to hopefully leave a legacy that the generation coming after me can build upon.
Amen to that. Yeah. So speaking of Africa, I think you've been to Liberia before, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Liberia. And I should have been there again a few months ago for the bicentennial celebration of the return of the first enslaved Africans who went back to Liberia to build after slavery.
Right.
And I didn't end up there because the brother responsible for getting my ticket didn't put my name correctly on the ticket and didn't book the ticket the way I asked him to. And as you know, that's a pretty long flight.
Right.
And I said, I'm 6'3", 275 pounds. There's no way you're going to have me cooped up in a window seat for the entire flight. I don't need first class.
Right.
But I got to have an aisle seat.
Aisle seat's a must.
He didn't make the changes. So as much as I wanted to be there to keynote, I was actually the guest of the mayor of Monrovia.
What's his name?
First, I'm forgetting the brother's name, but if I'm not mistaken, he's the first democratically elected native Liberian to serve as mayor of Monrovia.
Okay.
And we couldn't work out the ticket situation, so I ended up not going. But I'm sure I'll be going back to Liberia again in the future. I really enjoyed it last time I was there. One of the things I remember the most about Liberia is being at Miami Beach in Monrovia. That's the strongest water I've ever been in my life. So I'm almost 300 pounds. I can sit on the beach, and when that tide comes in, it lifts me like a feather and takes me out. And I said, if there's not ancestors in this water, there's no ancestors nowhere. So shout out to my Liberian family. I get a lot of love in Liberia and a lot of love from the Liberian Africans here in the States also.
All right, question for you. Have you had jollof rice before?
I just had some today.
Which country makes the best jollof rice? Go ahead and end this debate. End this debate right now.
I can't end it. I can't end it because I love the jollof rice made in Liberia. I love the jollof rice made in Nigeria. I love the jollof rice made in Benin, Togo, Ghana. I cannot end that debate.
Okay.
It's like when I go to Africa and the brothers say, which African country has the most beautiful women?
Oh, yeah.
No way can I answer that because
can't.
they're all fine. Or when I'm here in the States, people will say, what city you like traveling to the most? I'm like, are you trying to get me assassinated? I can't pick. You want me to pick New York over L.A. or L.A. over Atlanta or Atlanta over Houston or Houston over D.C.? I'm not doing that.
Real rap.
I love them all.
All right, man. Yeah, man. I think African women we got the best women. I would say that, like, for sure.
I think a lot of it has to do with what your preference is and what your interests are. You understand? So what I see, first of all, I think we're more similar than we are different. You know, one of the ironies is when I travel the world, and I've been everywhere except Australia at this point, continent-wise, and everyone thinks they're so different from everyone else, right? So if I'm in Canada, if I'm in Montreal, they'll be like, we're totally different from Toronto. No, you're not. Or if I'm in Houston, we're totally different from Dallas. No, you're not. If I'm in Nigeria, we're totally different from Ghana. No, you're not. And I think sometimes as African people, we buy into this narrative that suggests we have more that is not in common than what we actually have in common. We are more alike than we are different, but I think sometimes we exaggerate the differences too much, which is why one of the books by Sheikh Anta Diop, the Senegalese anthropologist and historian, probably the greatest anthropologist of all time, regardless of color, he wrote a book called The Cultural Continuity of Africa.
Okay.
And what he said is, despite the diversity of the branches, the roots are one. You know, and so being a Pan-Africanist, you know, I always try to emphasize the similarity, but I think there is a richness in the diversity too. I don't think the diversity has to be feared. We do not have to be a utopia. We don't all have to be robots of each other. The diversity is to be embraced and used. In other words, I'm glad the Nigerian brother might see things a little bit different than the Eritrean brother. I appreciate the fact the brother from Lesotho see things a little bit different from the brother in Botswana, or the brother in Philadelphia sees it a little bit different from the brother in Haiti. That's good, because as we fight this war of African liberation, we need different perspectives, all eyes on the problem, to make sure we account for every possible nuance that can grow up during this struggle for our liberation. So I think we have to embrace diversity. We don't need robots. I think that robotic mindset is an artifact of European domination, where they want everybody to think the same and be the same so they can control everybody the same. That's not who we are.
Question for you. So for the people that don't know, can you explain what a Pan-Africanist is?
Yes, I would surmise Pan-Africanism in 4 principles. Principle number 1, and the most important: all people of African ancestry, direct African ancestry, are members of a single human family.
Right.
And we identify with that family first and foremost before we identify with anything else we belong to. So if you're Muslim, that's fine, because as Pan-Africanists, we believe in freedom of spiritual expression. So we don't have a problem with you being a Muslim. Malcolm X was. We don't have a problem with you being a Christian. Marcus Garvey was. We don't have a problem with you being an African traditionalist, which is what I am, okay? But it comes second to being an African. It's the DNA. It is the bloodline that makes us one human family. So whether you're in Senegal speaking Wolof, or whether you're in South Africa speaking Xhosa, whether you're in Haiti speaking French, or whether you're in London speaking the Queen's English, one race. No matter what your flag is, no matter what your language is, no matter what your religion is, no matter what your skin tone is, whether you African vanilla or Zulu chocolate, you understand? Whether you butter pecan or whether you African lemonade, we are all one people. And as the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, the greatest of all Pan-Africanists, we have to put race first. Black must come first. It must come before your religion. It must come before your Masonic affiliations. It must come before your fraternal affiliations, your sorority affiliations. It must come before your professional associations. If we put race first, African family first, as I say, hashtag AFF, African family first, everything else will work itself out. But the problem with the African family first approach, although it is not new, is religion has confused us into thinking we're wrong for putting our people first. Because religions, black religions, teach us to be colorblind. You can't see the white man suffocating your community. You can't see other people of color raping the resources from that the government offers that your ancestors died for, and they're getting them resources at a better level and a better quality than you did, and you're the ones who died for them. You see, so religion has forced us to believe that God don't want us to see color. Everybody sees color except black people. We're the only multiculturalists. We're the only colorblind people. And the reason we're multiculturalist and colorblind is because we don't want to see our own color.
So Dr. Umar, recently, so as we speak about us being a race, us being one, recently Kanye West has been in these headlines, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's criticized the Jewish community.
Mm-hmm.
They said that he's being anti-Semitic. But like you said, the Jewish people, like not everyone, like I'm not gonna just put them all in one box, but naturally that's how they are. They keep everything within themselves.
Every group does except us.
So
Chinatown is right up the street. They keep it all inside.
So why can't we do it?
Because we have been psychologically engineered through slavery and colonization to serve the best interests of our oppressor. African people globally, I don't care where you find us, we're serving the agenda of someone else. One of the most disconcerting things that I found in my global travels is I don't care where you go, Liberia, Nigeria, Jamaica or Haiti, Philadelphia or Brooklyn, Toronto or London, Paris or Australia. And of course, I haven't been to Australia, so let me take that off the list. I'm going to say, Paris or Ethiopia, Paris or South America. Somebody else is dominating the black economy. Nowhere on the planet Earth. You cannot name a country, a city, a state, a town, a county where the black dollar is not being monopolized by non-black hands.
Exactly.
Everywhere on the planet, there's another group. When you go to Africa, as you know this, in Liberia, the Lebanese are one of those groups that monopolize the black dollar in Liberia. In South Africa, yes.
Didn't you say that, like within like a few years, China may own like a lot of Africa?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, China owns the port of Jamaica. They own another port in Africa. I don't know if it's the Angolan port because one of the African countries defaulted on a loan to China, and as a result of the default, the contract said we automatically take over your port. The Chinese are simply doing what the Europeans did, and that is offer these thirsty, greedy African leaders a deal that they can't refuse with a payoff under the table, and they'll sell their entire people down the drain. This is not every leader, by the way. We do have some great upstanding leaders there, as we have here, but the bulk of them are no good because they're all Western trained, Western influenced, and Western controlled. So the Chinese know you ain't gonna be able to pay this back.
Yeah.
And the minute you default, I'm taking whatever it is that I want. You even have African countries that are allowing the Chinese to operate their own militia. If you are a sovereign nation, why is another country bringing their army into your country to do business?
There is a Chinese police station.
Yes.
I forgot in what country, but there's a Chinese.
I think it's Djibouti, but I can be wrong.
There's a Chinese police station in your country. That's like China coming to America and having their own force.
We've even seen there was a situation in Nigeria where the Chinese restaurant, and we're not demonizing or criminalizing the entire Chinese people, but the truth of the matter is they have a record. Let us be honest. Every group, I don't care who you name, every group has a record of practicing systemic discrimination, racism, and bigotry against African people. That ain't the problem. The problem is we do not respond to it. I'll give you an example. When I was in China, I spoke in China, I spoke in Japan. The Chinese treated black people like dogs in China.
You've seen it.
It was so bad that when your visa expires, they will come and find you and take you to the airport and fly you out. You're not past your date. There were certain places you can't live if you're black in China. They never had a civil rights movement in China for black people. So there's certain places you can't go. In the help wanted ads, they'll tell you we're looking for someone from Europe. They'll tell you flat out we don't want black people applying here. But I look at how, let's juxtapose that to how African countries are rolling out the red carpet for China to come in and exploit their natural resources. We get treated like dogs in China, but the Chinese get treated like kings in Africa.
Right. That's like it's crazy.
I'll put it in the Marcus Garvey quote. Marcus Garvey said, a race without authority and power is a race without respect. If you don't control nothing, if you don't produce nothing, no one will respect you. And what I'm seeing happening right now with African people globally is we're begging for respect. We are the first human civilization. Respect us. We built the first university in Europe. Respect us. We are the creators of math and chemistry and science and algebra. All those mathematical equations come from us. Respect us. We taught all your Greco-Roman philosophers, from Aristotle to Epictetus to Socrates to Demosthenes. We taught them. Respect us. Latinos and homosexuals and women and Ukrainians and Afghanians and everybody else who come to America. We are the ones who fought for the civil rights that y'all benefit from. Respect us. And you know what I say to that? Don't nobody care about that. Nobody cares about what you did. People people care about what you control. Period. We control nothing. When you look at the 5 major institutions, schools to teach the people, banks to invest in the people, supermarkets to feed the people, hospitals to care for the people, and manufacturing and distribution to employ the people and provide for their needs. There's not a single black community in this country that has all 5 of the major institutions. Help me understand that when we have single-handedly made billionaires out of certain automobile companies, billionaires out of certain cell phone companies, billionaires out of certain social media platforms, billionaires out of certain hair care industries. We spend $30 billion a year on fake hair and beauty products. $30 billion. Do you know that that's more money than a quarter of the countries in Africa have to spend to manage an entire nation of men? And we're wasting that on hair care. But yet we will sit back and beg the U.S. government for money to help us when we're not even responsibly using the money that we already have. There will be no saving of black people until black people start saving their money to liberate themselves.
But don't you think that if we got reparations, that would have helped?
Let me ask you a question. The question on the table. If we get reparations, will that help us? If somebody is mentally ill in a mental asylum, mental hospital, you give him $1 million.
Gone.
Does it reverse the illness?
No, it don't.
Does it do anything to treat his problem?
No.
So let's take that to a community. If a community has no institutions, no way to trap the money in their community, they own none of the institutions, and you drop a couple $1 trillion in that community.
It's over.
How is that money going to benefit the people when all the institutions in the community that are going to take their money are not owned by people who look like them? I'm going to ask it another way. If we don't responsibly spend the money we already have,
How can we spend more?
what makes you think giving you more is going to change your situation? Now, let me say this. I want to be clear. I support reparations.
Okay.
For sure.
I support it. The reparations movement was born from the Pan-Africanist movement. I support reparations. What I don't support is thirsty, opportunistic Negroes who are pushing for reparations externally before we have delivered reparations internally to ourselves. In other words, most of the saving that has to be done for black people must be done by black people, and no amount of money going to fix that.
Right.
No amount of money is going to stop the black woman from not trusting the black man.
Right.
No amount of money is going to make the black man love his woman. No amount of money is going to stop black women from frying their hair. No amount of money is going to stop black men from dating outside the race.
Right.
When you look at our deepest rooted problems, no money can fix them.
You got to start at the root, right?
You got to start at the root. And then once you replant your tree, now you get that reparations to decorate your branches.
Yeah.
Man, but
You want to decorate your branches before you re-solidified your roots. It's not going to work, brother.
But Dr. Umar, we 400 years behind. Imagine all that time.
The
that
money
we-
ain't going to help you catch up. And guess what? You have enough right now. $2 trillion is more than enough right now to put yourself where you need to be. The reparations should be the icing on the cake. It should not be the cake.
Yeah, I think like we've seen this happen, kind of. You know what I mean? Because during the pandemic, I love to use this for an example
stimulus,
because because people got the stimulus and people got this money, and guess what happened? That money went to everybody else but our own people. I mean, I definitely seen a big boom in people like, hey, support black, buy black products. I seen that, but at the same time, it was a line up the block at the Gucci store. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think I'm all about reparations for sure, but I agree with him. Like, we have to kind of like internally fix our clock before we can go anywhere else and do anything else.
I am of the opinion that we should continue to organize the reparations agenda, but we should not mobilize it into petitioning the government at this time, because you should only go to war. And reparations is a political war for resources. You should only go to war when you have sufficiently organized your community to take on the power structure.
Right.
We are a disorganized people. Why in the hell are we picking up a struggle as important, as critically important as reparations? Why are we picking that up and trying to fight that fight with the government before we have organized ourselves? You don't go to war with a giant unless you got all your troops together.
Yeah.
We are not even organized, and we're trying to take this fight to the government. I say, use the $2 trillion we got and begin the process of African racial reconstruction. Continue to lay the philosophical, ideological, strategical groundwork for the reparations argument, but pass that off to another generation when we in a better place. My opinion, I'm of the firm opinion that this current generation of American Africans have no right at all to be going for reparations. Table it for our children. Table it for our grandchildren. Table it for our great-grandchildren. But we have done nothing at all that would justify why we think we have a right to take on that fight. Because reparations is not just for black people walking around in America today. Reparations is for the ancestors, and it's for the unborn. Let me say that again. It's for the unborn. Do we understand you get one chance at these reparations? You're getting one chance. Once they pay you, they're done. You're done. You can't come back later and say, oh, President Joe Biden, we actually miscalculated what you owed us. You actually owe us more. It's one and done.
Right.
I don't think we should be doing it. A subsequent generation should be doing it. And if we get it wrong, every subsequent generation of American Africans from now into perpetuity will suffer for the mistakes that we made.
I never thought about it like that. And that is super powerful. I think the problem with it right now is like we, again, to the pandemic situation, when that money came in, it's like now people are like, they got that money and there's so many people that's never going to see that money ever again. And it's like, well, what's the next way we can do it? And they don't fully understand the calamities of what they're doing and who they have to kind of go against to get this money and what it actually means. You know what I mean? Because who had got reparations recently? I'm sorry if I'm
not sure who got reparations recently, but I do know that European Jews had an increase in the amount of reparations that they get from the U.S. government. Congress recently passed a bill that increases the amount of reparations that they pay to European Jews. And guess what? That's their business. I have nothing to do with that. Right. But if you're going to pay reparations to people whose Holocaust didn't even take place on this soil, you had better pay reparations to people whose Holocaust took place on this soil and for whose Holocaust you are directly responsible. Here's what we need to understand. You don't change nothing for African people. Not in America, not in Europe, not in Africa, not in the Caribbean, not in Central and South America, not in Australia, not in Canada. You don't change nothing for us until you change the way that we think. Until there is a psychological revolution, it won't be an economic one. Getting reparations before we have underwent a profound transformation in the way we think will not benefit us. There will be no political revolution. There will be no spiritual revolution. There will be no academic or cultural revolution until there's first a psychological revolution. All community dysfunction begins in the mind. And until you transform minds, you transform nothing else. Give me some money and I'm going to start doing better is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of.
I agree with that.
It's almost like when you think about like something that I think about all the time. Like, I'm very poor with my money, right? Like, I buy stupid shit all the time. And knowing that, I know that if I get a promotion at my job, I just got more money to fuck up.
Bingo.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's literally the same thing. And that's my personal life. So I think that if, we all think like that. Not all of us, but a good portion of us think like that. And it's just like, that's not the way to think. We have to be more diligent and more thoughtful what we're doing and what we're trying to do. Because I think that how can I say it? You go, because I got to think about this.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. The only way I'm going to go for reparations right now is if once we get it, we throw it in a iron vault until our
Yeah.
grandchildren are born. Do you follow what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's a
That's the
banger.
only
That's a
way.
banger. That's a
It's
banger.
being put in trust to future generations.
Right.
But in the other issue I have with reparations argument as it's being put out, I keep hearing about money. Why are we trying to reduce what happened to us to a dollar amount? Do you realize our enslavement is the worst dehumanization experiment in the history of man? It's the greatest forced transmigration of a people ever in recorded history. You cannot reduce what happened to us to a dollar amount.
Right.
And because you cannot reduce what happened to us to a dollar amount, we need to be looking for restitution to come in the form of something other than money.
Like land.
Land, control of resources, access to natural water routes, in my opinion. A couple things that must be on the list. Return of all land stolen from African people from slavery until the 1960 by the white citizens councils, the Ku Klux Klan, and other racist organizations that stole land outright from our ancestors at gunpoint, threatened them off their land. Hundreds of thousands of acres were stolen from black folks from 1865 to 1965. All that land comes back.
Yeah.
You follow? Number two, America has about 10 major natural resources that it trades across the world. We get a permanent percentage of all sales of that. You understand? In addition to that, 60% of all African Americans are concentrated in 10 states. They include Illinois, California, Texas, Florida, Maryland, Virginia. There's a few, right?
Right.
In every state that make up the 60% of where we reside are seaboarding states, or in the case of Illinois, a lakeboarding state. We should own the major port in every state where we predominate. All black music rights should accrue to us permanently.
Very true.
No non-African people can ever own the masters to any black music. I want Michael Jackson's music, it's mine. Sam Cooke's music, it's mine. Donna Hathaway's music is mine. Prince's music, Whitney's music, give me all my damn music back. Hip hop, R&B, gangster rap, it belongs to me. Music is America's second largest export. It could be third or fourth now, but it's in the top 5. If we owned it, and hip hop currently is the most influential genre on the planet. If we own the publishing, the rights, the marketing, the distribution, the sales, and the performing of the music, we would have all the money we need to build a Black Wall Street in every city in America. In addition to that, all black inventions. We own the patent permanently, and anyone who uses it must pay us a license fee. The cell phone, we invented it. The internet, we invented it. The helicopter, we invented it. The self-lubricating engine inside of every automobile, every airplane, every train, every motorcycle, we invented it. If you take the major inventions of black people out of America, there would be no America. You'd have to turn the lights off, because the only reason why these lights are on right now is because of a black scientist by the name of Dr. Lewis Latimer, who taught the United States how to illuminate an entire city at night. The Chinese wanted that technology, and they brought Dr. Lewis Latimer to China. The Canadians wanted that technology, and they brought Dr. Lewis Latimer to Canada. The Europeans wanted that technology, and they brought Dr. Latimer to London, England. So there wouldn't even be no lights on at night nowhere in the world had it not been for a black man. Give us our inventions back.
Big facts.
That's how we're supposed to be thinking.
Right.
If the benefit of slavery can never expire, America will always be great because of what we did for her. So whatever you pay me must never expire.
Right.
Right.
Land don't expire. Control of certain resources don't expire.
Right.
Control of all black music don't expire. Control of all black inventions don't expire. We have to think realistically and visionarily about this restitution package for slavery and stop thinking about dollars, quarters,
money.
nickels, and dimes.
So let's.
Whew, that was a heater.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, God damn, God.
So it also starts from the household as well, right? I know you and the great, well, not the great, but the late brother, Kevin Samuels. Y'all had a little, not a direct back and forth, but y'all had a little back and forth going on. Kevin Samuel has passed away a few months ago. How did you feel that his message was doing for the black community? How would
I didn't support it at all.
Okay.
I thought it was divisive. I thought it was very Eurocentric in his approach to criticism. I think his expectations for women were very superficial in terms of what was important. There was a heavy focus on how much you make and how good you look. No woman is going to look good forever.
No.
They're going to get pregnant. They're going to get older. To me, telling women that you are too fat or too small or too broke, and that's the reason why you don't have a man, that is psychopathological and it is destructive to our community. I did not agree with his approach at all. And the fact that he did have a lot of people who did speaks to how decadent and speaks to how self-hating we can be as a people. And I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of the women who supported Kevin Samuels supported him because they don't like other black women, and they enjoyed sitting back on their couch, sipping their tea, and watch this black man tear black women's self-esteems to shreds.
Yeah. I can see where you come from.
And I think the brothers saw in him someone who adequately expressed their frustration for black women. In other words, mistreated by an ex-wife, mistreated by a baby mom, abandoned by a mother, verbally abused by a big sister or auntie or a cousin. So they have always had this pain that can only be exercised through healing and therapy rather than seek healing and therapy and reconciliation. I just want to find a black man who can say what I feel in an articulate way. And Kevin Samuels was that. He was the mouthpiece for so many black men who have been hurt by black women who just wanted to get revenge. And Kevin Samuels was that social media verbal revenge that so many brothers have been craving to get back at black women through. I don't think there was anything progressive at all about his message or the work that he was doing.
Wow.
Rest in peace to him.
Yeah,
And let me say this, in his defense, because even though I did not agree with Kevin Samuels, I still respected him as a black man. And I thought it was very disingenuous to see so many women and men mock his death.
Yeah, that wasn't cool.
Make fun of him in his death. And to me, the reason that was so hypocritical, Kevin Samuels wasn't around long enough to do the damage that gangster rap has done. But you have yet to repudiate a single gangster rapper. Kevin Samuels was not around long enough to do what the reality shows have done. But you haven't repudiated a single reality show. One of the issues I have with us is this selective morality that we practice. If you do something wrong, I'm going to condemn you and I'm going to judge you like God himself. But if you do it, I'm going to pardon it because I like who you are and what you're doing. You know selective morality is hypocrisy, and there's too much of it in the black community.
Yeah, I agree.
So as far as relationships then, right, if his approach wasn't right, how do you feel about the dating market right now? Like, how do you feel about black love right now?
Black love right now.
I got a question for you too.
Sure.
Right after this.
Your time check.
You got my phone, bro.
7:30.
No, for the timer.
It's on my phone.
We good to about 8:20.
Okay.
So we got about another almost an hour. 4 major issues when you're dealing with black romance. Number 1 is trauma. Too many brothers and sisters are dating, having already been through traumatic experience. Most of our people have been traumatized 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times over. A traumatized person cannot function in a healthy relationship because too much of their decisions and reactions are based on a fear that they will re-experience what they've already been through in past loves.
Right.
Do you follow where I'm coming from? In other words, a traumatized woman is waiting on you to cheat on her. She's waiting on you to get her pregnant and walk out. She's waiting to catch you in bed with a white girl because that's what she's been through. And because it was so traumatizing, she can't see you for the gentleman you are because the power of the traumatic memory is so great that all she can see is the hurt. See, we need time to heal from relationships. Going from one relationship to another, that's not healthy for men or for women, but we do it because we don't like to be alone. Right. And the reason we don't like to be alone is because when you are alone, your conscience and your soul will communicate to you the things about your life that you need to fix. And because so many of us do not want to fix the issues we have with self, we rather date to distract ourselves from our growth. In other words, dating is often a way many people live their life to prevent from making necessary growth.
Ooh.
Do you see that?
Ooh.
You